You guys, I made a mistake. I did something stupid. Again. I went on Twitter. I know. I have a problem. I'm working on it. I'm trying to seek help. But what's done is done. I went on Twitter and I saw something stupid. Again, well, I did something stupid by going on Twitter, but then when I was there, whilst I was on Twitter, I saw something real stupid. So here's this tweet from this dude. His name is Lance McDonald. Dude's got 60.2 thousand followers. That's a lot. That's a tremendous number of followers. And I don't have any clue how this came across my feed. I'm assuming someone I follow retweeted it, because this tweet has almost 5,000 retweets at this point. And so I'm thinking what I'm going to have to do if I want to maintain any sort of Twitter status, I'm going to have to unfollow 99% of all the people that I follow so that I just don't come across this shit anymore. Because it's having an effect. My mental health is deteriorating drastically. But you guys be the judge. Let me tell you what this dude, Lance McDonald, said in the tweet. He says, 7 years ago today, PT was removed from the PlayStation Store. In an absolutely unprecedented act of malice, the entire PKG file and JSON file for the game were, at this time, deleted from the PSN servers, making it impossible to re-download it even if you had a license for it. I can definitely even with these people, but I can't odd. With stuff like this, I can't even odd. I can't believe it. In an absolutely unprecedented act of malice. Tell me that's not the most pathetic thing that you've ever heard strung together, like any string of words that have ever been assembled. Tell me that's not at least one of the most pathetic things you've ever heard. And then later on, he replies to himself several times, telling people how it's possible to still play PT on a jailbroken PS4, etc. And then he closes it off. He concludes by saying, the historical sheer malice that Konami has shown towards Silent Hills and PT is fucking jaw-dropping. It's like, okay, maybe I'm missing something. Who is this Lance McDonald guy? Oh, he's a Twitch streamer, I suppose. So he's just a Twitch streamer. How many followers does he have on Twitch? 18,000. 18,000 followers on Twitch. So I'm assuming he's a streamer full time. This dude has never had an actual job before. And so he must absolutely have zero clue how business functions, because he's never had to do any work a day in his life. And no, I do not consider Twitch streaming work, even though I do it. And I know people who do, and it takes a tremendous amount of effort, but I'll never go so far as to consider that employment, regardless of what the law says. Like, you're getting paid to play video games. That's not a job, dude. It's not. Okay? I do it. I want to get paid to do it. That's why I'm working towards this thing, so that I can get paid to do nothing. To get paid to essentially just have a hobby. That's whatever. So this dude, yeah, he's never had a full-time job before, I'm guessing, because anybody who had would understand that that's just not how business works, first off. But anyway, so I see this on Twitter. I get really upset, as you can see. And I'm like, how can people be so short-sighted and narrow-minded? I just don't comprehend. And I'm like, okay, please, for the sake of humanity, let there be in the replies somebody who can see reason. And thank Odin the Allfather that there were actually people in this ridiculously long thread that actually did see the light of day and were, of sound mind and body, and had pointed out, like, first off, PT was a playable teaser. It wasn't a demo. Right? I don't know if people have played the demo, but at the end it specifically says this has nothing to do with the final game. The final game isn't going to be anything like this, and people pointed out, like, PT is way overrated, And it was definitely the vocal minority, I can tell you that. But still, it still encouraged me to continue dying to see that that people were there were still reasonable people left on the planet. But then I see a couple other replies to this post that I couldn't let go. Like I wanted to just just continue about my day, but honestly, I was procrastinating. Like there was work that I should have been doing, but I didn't feel like doing it. So I'm like, well, I can't get to it, obviously, because I have to reply to this idiot on Twitter. So too bad, can't do any work. No work's gonna happen today because gotta reply to this idiot on Twitter. This Twittiot. Twittiot, is that a thing? Twittiot is, if it's not a thing yet, it's a thing now. So I had to reply to a Twittiot. And so this dude is just being a jerk. He's clearly in the cult, deeply ingrained into the cult. But this one dude replied, I like this tweet. He goes, this dude's name is Crestfallen. He says, I'm a huge Kojanki fan and love his work, but the demo was a pretty mid horror game that was like 20 minutes of one hallway. Thank you, sir. To act as if it was some big deal is insane. Oh, hallelujah. And to say it was an act of malice? I don't get it. As a lifelong Code Jumpin' Jack fan, I am just baffled by this stuff. Had to like that tweet. That guy at Firelink Garden, that dude, hero. So, but then this Twittiot replies and he says, mid is subjective. For a ton of people, it was an intense experience that pushed the PS4's hardware and what? Okay. Pushed the PS4's hardware and placed a heavy emphasis on creative thinking and community puzzle solving. Ask a dev of any indie horror made within the last 5 years if they were inspired by PT. Like, dude, blanket statement, man. Like, I can list 5 indie horror games off the top of my head that were clearly not inspired by PT. Like, do you want me to list them? I can't odd. I can even, but I can't even odd. So Brett Howell replies, yeah, door camping is very revolutionary. Great comment. That's an excellent reply. And so then this dude, he gets all bent out of shape, right? Because he's a high cleric in the cult. His name is wonder who it is. That's literally his name. Wonder who it is. A with a bunch of H's, and then wonder who it is in one word. At Joe Hella _ IRL. He says, what's your favorite game? I guarantee someone could write an oversimplified description that makes it sound dumb. If you didn't like the demo, you can just say that instead of being a pussy and writing stupid shit that purposefully leaves out the actual reasons people like the demo. So this dude, clearly, he's a bit unhinged. He's like me, but he doesn't know how to convert that energy into other forms. Energy doesn't get created or destroyed. It only gets converted into other forms. This dude, he hasn't mastered that principle yet. So what I could have done, I could have gone off on the guy and returned his energy, but I just wanted to call him out. I wanted to call his bluff. So I said, then list your actual reasons. And so he says, because he's trying to duck out of it, he says, I will type a whole ass paragraph. First off, whole ass is hyphenated, and he didn't hyphenate it. Dude's an idiot. And actually, I do want to point out that the pinned tweet on his profile, and this has been pinned for almost 2 years now, it says, I have dumb hoe disease. And when people say that about themselves, I'm inclined to agree. So, for the record, I didn't see that before I had replied, so I had already replied to a dude with dumb hoe disease, and so I feel dumber for it, but it's too late. I dug the hole, dug my own grave, I made my bed, now I gotta lay in it. So he says, I will type a whole ass paragraph explaining it if you won't put some shit like not reading all that in response. So I reply with a gif of The Rock saying, just bring it, right? I said, just bring it. Like, what are you waiting for? Why would you offer to do something and then not do it? And so a day goes by, a couple days actually. I let it ruminate over the weekend. I get no response. So I'm like, no, I want to hear, because I'm genuinely interested. I want to know what people see in that playable teaser. I can't comprehend it. And when Cyber started singing its praises on a stream a few weeks ago, my brain couldn't process it, because I can't even odd the idea that anybody would actually enjoy that as a interactive experience. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm just shitting on PT. I am, but what can I say about PT that isn't, like, if you don't have my philosophy has always been, if you don't have anything nice to say, then make sure they can hear you in the back. I also try to approach ideas and arguments from an objective standpoint. Objective. Sometimes I get a little bit of Italian in there. I just had the sandwich from Subway. Subway's got these new sandwiches. They got gabagool on the meat menu now. It was actually a really nice sandwich. I was impressed. I'd never had gabagool before, but, I'd heard a lot about it. I thought it was a dessert. And, you always hear people bring it up when they talk about stereotypical Italians, gabagool. Hey, Tony, lay off the gabagool. It's bad for your heart over here, And so I'm like, what the hell is gabagool? They call it Coca-Cola. It's like a synonym, but whatever. Anyway, so this sandwich was fantastic. So anyway, I'm like, what's the guy doing? So I reply to him a couple days later. I say, are you still writing, or ... question mark? Because I'm still waiting for a reply. He goes, done now. Sorry, life gets in the way. That's a lie. We all know he's lying. He just forgot about it because he didn't think it was worth his time, I suppose. But I'm genuinely curious. I want to know. So he says, these are a set of quick notes on the demo done without much research, just based on things I remember. Oops. It's 800 words. It's a lot. And I'm sorry for you guys. I got to read all of his points. So he titles it 5 Things I, and others in parentheses, love about PT. Number 1, introductions. PT was revealed in an extremely similar manner to MGS5's reveal. Longtime fans of Kojanki are already privy to the tricks he likes to play, but it allowed a new audience to be introduced to the unorthodox methods and vision that have become a staple of his work. Okay, so that's a selling point to him. That's like you could shorten that and put that as a back of the box quote. Like, it's full of unorthodox methods. This game has tricks played by one of the directors. Ta-da! Don't you want to pay $60? It has tricks. Like, remember back in the day when you'd get a physical game box and on the back there would be, like screenshots from the game and then a selling point? Remember that? I used to love that. He'll trick you. You're going to pay money for that? Let's keep going. Number 2, preparing. A game demo, first off, not a demo. It's a playable teaser. I'm being pedantic. A game demo ideally serves 2 purposes. That's subjective, okay? A game demo can serve all kinds of purposes. You don't know. You've never made a demo, clearly. Anyway, the first goal is to give players a proper taste of what's to come. Okay, let me calm down. My aneurysm gauge is off the charts. PT executes this perfectly. From the beginning, players are treated to game mechanics. What? Did I read that correctly? I think players are... Where's my J. Jonah Jameson gif? Players are treated to game mechanics. Oh, I can't even odd. Players are treated to game mechanics, world building, and exposition. No, they're not. Okay, you don't know the definition of world building. And also, world building is hyphenated. What are you doing? I'm an editor, in case you haven't noticed. World building and exposition, presentation, and ultimately the vibes that Kojumping Jack had chosen for his reboot. By the time they're done, any player instantly knew exactly the kind of game Silent Hills was going to be, without actually being spoiled on any major plot elements of the full game, leaving them still vulnerable to any tricks Kojan just had up his sleeve. I'm gonna read that sentence again. It's a long one. I'm gonna take an excerpt from that sentence. By the time they're done, any player instantly knew exactly the kind of game Silent Hills was going to be. You guys see what I'm up against. You see it with your own ears. I need you to activate your synesthesia, okay? Because what the F? Come on, formulate sentences. That's all you gotta do, brain. That's all I need you to do. Is formulate a couple sentences here and there. I don't ask you to do it often. That's a lie. I do it constantly. I apologize to my brain. But I can't speak right now. Okay, hold on. Let me break this down one more time because I still think I'm in an alternate dimension, which actually ties into Silent Hills in an interesting way. By the time they're done, any player instantly knew exactly the kind of game Silent Hills was going to be. First off, I guess this is 18th off, actually. I probably said first off several times throughout this rant. But one of the final screens at the end of the teaser is that the playable teaser is unrelated to the final product. It's not going to be anything like the final game at all. Well, it wasn't going to be because it's canceled now. But there's still hope. It could still happen. Not with Norman Reedus, obviously, but, you know, there's obviously still a possibility. But still, the fact of the matter remains that whatever game mechanics that those players were treated to, none of them were going to show up in the final product. Absolutely none of them, because people would have rioted in the streets. And I'll get to that in a second. So he wraps up point 2 by saying it's difficult to judge PT's merit as a teaser because the thing it's teasing never came to fruition. And we don't have that much info about Silent Hills even now. Okay, so that's the second thing that you love about PT is that it's difficult to judge PT's merit as a teaser. So why did you even write that? Dude doesn't. He's got dumb hoe disease, obviously. Okay, I'm just gonna. I wanna harp on that point, but I mean that's his number 2. I guess he's saving the best for last. Let me keep going. All right. Point 3. Graphics and fidelity. Oh, no. I should have stayed on part 2. This is going to make me mad. Being an early title in the PS4's lifespan, it's impressive how much it lived up to the console's promises of photorealism and high fidelity. Okay. All right. Not yet. Let me keep going. Even to this day, it's one of the better looking games on the system. Okay. Okay. It's a hallway. It's a hallway with flat polygons. Okay? Just squares. The textures, they don't need to be that complicated. You can add more resolution to the textures if you're not rendering as much geometry to the screen. But you're only ever rendering about maximum 6 faces. Or 8 or something. Cube law, the law of cubes or something. You're not rendering that many faces. And the little objects sprinkled throughout the environment, even the pictures, the portraits and stuff on the walls, textures on that shit, fucking blurry as fuck. You know why? Because they had to sacrifice some texture fidelity to make the wallpapers look all nice and whatever. But, you know, whatever. You know, and then there was that thing where Kojiminy had claimed that they actually had to dial the graphics down because they had to tone the graphics down and make them look worse on purpose because at one point the graphics looked too good and people weren't going to believe that that demo was developed by an indie studio, like because it was too AAA quality, and that's just false. Like, we can all agree that that's corporate lingo for I'm not telling the truth. That's what that means. But okay, whatever. Of course, photorealism in any game is just a facade, and AAA developers make it their mission to prevent players from doing anything to break the facade, but PT's hyperfocus / linear gameplay does a great job of keeping it up through the entire experience. This is anecdotal, but throughout my entire time playing it, I never once noticed any janky animations. Okay, but Lisa's whole point is that she animates all janky. Like, that's what makes her scary. Well, whatever. Low-res textures or blocky models. You just weren't looking. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, he said blocky models? How about a hallway? What's blockier than a hallway? There's nothing blockier than a hallway, because a hallway is literally an elongated block. That's the blockiest model you could possibly have. That's why there's not a whole lot of geometry and textures to render. It's why the game looks so good, because it's just a hallway. Imagine if it was a whole city. And also, the data miners... They, the Norman Reedus teaser of him walking at the end, like, that's rendered in real time, and you can actually explore that. And there's, like, cars and stuff, and models that you can actually see, and they're blocky and blurry as hell. So, yeah, like, that's how game development go. He wraps it up by saying, the game also makes full use of the DS4's vibration and speaker functionalities. That's the worst part of it. I mean, I like the vibration, but I turn the speaker off because it's a shitty speaker, and why would you want anything to come out of there? It's just not fun. Anyway, point 4. Oh, and this is the longest one. And this is, I think, the most important one, perhaps. Because one of the other tweets that the guy wrote, he said that PT placed a heavy emphasis on creative thinking and community puzzle solving. So I replied to that and I said, somebody explain to me exactly what community puzzle solving is. Because I honestly didn't think that anybody would be able to answer that question. And then just to be fun, I threw in some Samuel L. Jackson. I dare you. I double dog dare you. I love that line from Pulp Fiction. It's such a good line. But, so he replies, Mr. Dumb Ho Syndrome says, I don't think it's that difficult to understand, but sure, here's my brief definition. I don't know why you're being so combative about this. Do you dislike that people hold PT in high regard? Does it not merit the praise people gave to it? Naturally, I had to respond to that. I said, I don't dislike that people hold PT in high regard. I hate that they do. Not only does it not merit any praise, it's asinine that anybody would. And so his definition, which I honestly like, it's a good definition. Check this out. He says, content or lore in a game hidden behind mechanics or puzzles that are purposefully obtuse, designed to be confusing and difficult for a single person to solve on their own, necessitating people working together as a collective to unlock the hidden content / lore. Examples: Five Nights at Freddy's, Undertale, Every Team Eco game, old Halo ARGs, Frog Fractions, Portal, The Binding of Isaac, some of the MGS games. It's a good definition. I think in the case of lore, I think that's a fantastic thing. I've participated in like lore hunting circles like that. Like I solved PT months before it came out, and I was one of the only people to do it. But I honestly would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for the other work that other people had done. So in the case of lore, I think that is a wonderful thing. I love that. In the case of game mechanics, go to hell. I want you to die painfully and then go to hell and suffer some more in hell. How dare you? That's a crime that should be outlawed by international convention. That's disgusting that anybody would ever think that that's a good thing. I'll get to that in a second. Let's go back to this guy's list, top 5 reasons. So he says, this is point 4. Community. PT is intentionally vague in all aspects. You'll get bits and pieces of what's going on in the world you're placed into, but never the full picture. That and events in the game will trigger without giving the player any obvious clue as to how they caused them. This is something people want out of games? Are you, like, just inconsistency, right? He continues, in the age of social media, the natural consequence of this is that most players will go online to share their experience and or to look for help from others, only to find that nearly every other player has a different moment-to-moment experience. I don't understand why anyone would think that that is a positive thing. Right? That sounds like a nightmare to me. He continues, in a way, different players were being given different pieces of the puzzle, and the only two ways a player could see all of the content in the game would be to A, spend days documenting everything and playing trial and error, or B, utilize the shared collective knowledge gathered by the community. The second ideal goal of a game demo is to generate buzz around itself and around the game it's teasing. You can already see how people forming a community to help solve the game together is an easy way to generate discussion and get the game talked about without Kojiminy or Konami actually having to do any explicit marketing. Yeah, word of mouth. That's a great way to get the word out. That's how PT did, in fact, spread throughout gaming communities. Actually, it was more like people like Markiplier and PewDiePie playing it on Twitch. That's more what got the word out than any obtuseness, but whatever. Though the demo itself is in a sorry state when it comes to preservation, the cultural moments it generated are perfectly preserved. It's easy to go back and look at forums/social media posts, YouTube videos, and streams to understand how people felt about it at the time, and how it and a few other select games breathed new life into the indie horror space. Whoa. Need to calm down for a quick second on that one, okay? Because it's not indie. It was never indie. It's published by Konami. It was meant to be a AAA entry in the Silent Hill franchise, which is, for all intents and purposes, a AAA franchise. It also helps that being released so early into the PS4's lifespan, there was zero way to hack or data mine anything out of the demo. What? Meaning players had to solve everything as intended by the developers. Well, later on, there were data mines that did occur, as I mentioned, but the point still stands. In PT, you're expected to go online and, look up guides and get help from people to try and solve this game, and their solution, what worked for them, may or may not work for you. And so you just wind up literally running around in circles around this hallway for hours, and I can say this from experience. Me and a friend spent 3 hours looking at different guides and, and ways to beat the demo. But at that point, we had already seen the ending. We already knew Norman Reedus was going to be in Silent Hills. I mean, he wasn't, but at the time, we thought this was going to get made. And so we were like, oh, okay, that's going to be sick. Norman Reedus, yeah, we love him in The Walking Dead. This was back when The Walking Dead was still good, And so we were looking at guides, and we spent 3 hours one night. My friend fell asleep. And I was left there running around this hallway up until the wee hours of the morning, trying to not just figure out the puzzles in the game, but figure out the instructions of other people who supposedly had completed the teaser, but weren't able to properly explain to other people how to actually do it, because what actually causes the ending to trigger is apparently random or whatever. There's an RNG, or there's some way that's different for depending on your hardware setup, or if you have a Castlevania save for a European PS1 that just so happens to be in Brazil, like the game is going to take that into consideration and determine whether it's going to play the final cutscene for you. But either way, the final game wasn't going to be anything like that, because there's no way that any studio would be able to stretch out that obtuseness and that vague community puzzle solving. You're not going to get that stretched out into a AAA game. People would be infuriated, because here's the problem with that gameplay model, is that for 99% of people who finish that demo, they achieve nothing. They don't solve any puzzles. They just look up a guide of someone who essentially had beaten the game for them. So it's like playing with cheat codes. You might as well just turn on invincibility and unlimited ammo. You're not actually playing the game, you're just cheating, because you're using a strategy guide to beat the game and you're not figuring out any puzzle, so you have zero sense of accomplishment, why would anyone think that that's a good idea in a game to let a community of people beat the game for you? And let's say they don't pull it off. Let's say their solution doesn't actually work. So why would you want players to ram their head up against the wall? Literally, because one of the guides said, just ram your head up against the wall 50 times and then you'll hear a baby laughing, right? But, oh, that doesn't work for me. Oops, right? So I just wasted my time. And as busy as I am, as busy as a lot of people in this economy are, because of the gig economy and all the side hustles people got going on, if you even have free time to play a game, you don't want to feel like your time is being wasted. You want to have a meaningful experience. You don't want to feel like you just spent 3 hours doing absolutely nothing for no reason. Why would you want that? Why would you pay? You wouldn't pay money for that. That's why people didn't like Halo 2's ending. So the PT demo was the equivalent of the ending to Halo 2. There's just a cliffhanger ending, no finality to it. You're going to have to wait a few more years for the next game in the series. Blue balls, essentially. It's the gaming equivalent of blue balls. So I don't get the community puzzle solving thing. Like the community lore crafting, I like that. That's a good term for it. I was trying to come up with a good term. Community lore crafting, I think that's brilliant and beautiful. Again, I was one of the only people on the planet. I was possibly the only person on the planet to solve what the hell Death Stranding was all about. And this is really funny, actually. Quick sidebar, but back when I was doing those Death Stranding videos and I had, was analyzing the trailers and I had, solved a bunch of mysteries. Actually, one of the reasons why I refused to cover that game is because the theories that I had were just a million times better than what the final game turned out to be. I'm not talking about the gameplay, but like you had all these cryptic trailers that were released and everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. And then it turned out that, like when the game finally came out, there wasn't actually any subtlety or nuance to the story. There was nothing hidden or cryptic or any mysteries that needed solving. So like all the guesses that people had about what the game was were way more complex, vastly more complex than the actual story, which had been just laid bare in the trailers. Like the trailers for Death Stranding, essentially, that's what the game was about. It wasn't like everybody was assuming that, it was all the trailers were full of red herrings that were meant to mislead you, and then the answers were going to be revealed when you actually played the game. But actually, no, the trailers just straight up tell you what the story is, and people wanted to believe that it was more than the sum of its parts, and then it wound up being less than the difference of its parts. It was like negative. It was bad. It was such a missed opportunity, and I hate it because of that. Because just the underhanded marketing tactics, I thought that was a shitty move. So anyway, point 5. All right, here's the last point. This guy, oh man, this one bothers me. Point 5. Number 5, simplicity. PT sits alongside games like Eco, Journey, and Limbo. Okay, Oxford comma, bro. You gotta put the Oxford comma, because Journey and Limbo, you make that look like it's one game. Like they're two dudes named Journey and Limbo. It could be a cool game, actually, but no, Oxford comma, bro. Seriously. Alongside games like Eco, Journey, and Limbo as an extreme example of minimalism in games. There's no HUD at all. Well, Dead Space didn't have a HUD either. What's your point? The controls are extremely basic. With very few actions you're able to perform. The game doesn't feel gamey at all. Man, what? The game doesn't feel gamey at all. He just said the game doesn't feel like a game. More like an interactive movie. So that's what you like about it? That you don't like playing video games? Is that what you're saying? This is the most controversial aspect of the demo. Well, I'm not surprised. Detractors, that's me, detractors will state that it's a very repetitive and lacking experience. Hey, that's 100% correct. He's got me down to a T. Compared to games that were coming out at the time with open worlds, dozens of characters and weapons, and beautiful soundtracks. Compared to games with gameplay, what merit is there in a hallway walking / jump scare simulator? There weren't actually that many jump scares. There was literally one jump scare in the playable teaser. And then the other ones were just like, oh, there's Lisa. Oh, if you get too close, oh, she's gonna run at you. Oh, and you can do that like 100 times. And then it loses all its effect really quickly. Again, played it for 3 hours straight and got nowhere. So, fuck that game. Compared to games that were coming out at the time with open worlds, dozens of characters and weapons, and beautiful soundtracks. That's what's really funny. Like, beautiful soundtracks. What merit is there in a hallway walking / jump scare simulator? For others, though, there are a few merits to a minimalist kind of game, two big ones being refinement and accessibility. The aforementioned photorealism in PT was only possible because the whole thing takes place in a few varied hallways. It was actually just a single hallway with different lighting, but whatever. Meaning the devs can spend time getting every texture, model, and light fixture looking absolutely correct. Every story beat can be hit or missed by every player exactly as intended from the developer, with no way to sequence break or mess up the demo. Okay, you're just describing a linear game. Linear games have existed since the beginning of all games. Effectively, the experience is a digital equivalent to a haunted house. Right. That's what people don't want. No one's gonna pay $60 for a haunted house experience. Back on the Dreamcast, you'd get House of the Dead, or on the PS2, Time Crisis 2, but you'd get the GunCon with that, and honestly, you were getting a steal with Time Crisis or House of the Dead, because those were arcade perfect ports, and so you're getting the arcade experience for a fraction of the price of an arcade cabinet, because the cabinet's going to run you $3,000 to $10,000, depending on which configuration you get. Or if you get it used, in good condition or whatever. So you're looking to drop a few grand on an arcade cabinet. But, you get the GunCon 2 and Time Crisis 2 and a PS2. You total $400 or $500. It's a huge bargain, right? But, it's on rails. So, yeah, that's a haunted house situation. But I don't think people in the PS3 era or today would pay $60 for a House of the Dead or Time Crisis. And what evidence do we have of that? Well, Sega just released the House of the Dead remake. I'm actually excited about picking this up. It's on sale right now, but I think I'm going to wait for a cheaper sale. But we got House of the Dead remake. It's a retextured remake of just House of the Dead. I would have assumed that they would have also put House of the Dead 2 in there, because why not? But the graphics look fantastic. I'm assuming they did this in, what is this, Unreal or Unity, whatever it is. Looks great. How much are they selling it for? Well, full price is $25. That's like full price, but it's 10% off right now for $22.49, right? So no one's gonna buy that in the modern day for $60. They just won't. So imagine if Konami was to sell PT. What price could you put on that? How much would you pay? Like hypothetically, if you were going to pay for PT, I'm going to tell you how much it's worth right now. $0, because it's not a game. It's not a game at all. It isn't. Haunted House, albeit with systems designed to give every player a unique experience. That's not true, because now we finally have guides that work for PT, and you can just follow the steps. As you can see in the video footage, this is actually the Unreal Engine 4 remake of PT, but it's fairly faithful. I give it a 75% in terms of faithfulness to the original. Nothing's perfect, obviously, but I think this is just one guy, and they did a fantastic job. It looks great. The game is also extremely accessible in that literally anyone can play it. Yeah, literally anyone can play it, but playing something like walking in a circle, right? Yeah, anybody can do that. But can you make any progress in the game? The majority of people can't. 90% of people aren't going to get to the end. If someone with 30 years of experience playing video games isn't going to finish the demo, and that might have been because... I said demo, not a demo, teaser. That might have been because me and my friend were looking at the wrong guides. That could have been it, but either way, like, it was so obtuse, there's that word that people keep throwing around, so obtuse that no human could conceivably solve it on their own. No knowledge of gamified systems and mechanics, he said is needed, but that should be are needed. And fine motor skills are completely absent from the game. Yeah, that's called an adventure game. It's the opposite of action. You get as much time as you need to solve the puzzle. But even then, you're not going to solve these puzzles, right? Because you're not going to find that little tiny torn piece of picture or whatever in the background amongst the beer cans, right? Because the game doesn't communicate to you. Here's how you even pick up objects. The game doesn't even tell you that you can pick up objects. What, you're just supposed to figure that out accidentally? Whatever. So stupid. Fine motor skills are completely absent from the game, opening it up to people of all ages and background. That's funny because these are all screenshots, and you can see the red squiggly line under background, but he just left that in, I guess. I don't know. That's background. That's a cool word, though. I like that. But it's not open to people of all ages in background because it's intended for ages 17 and up. So what's wrong with this guy? Don't show this to your 6-year-old niece or nephew. That'd be messed up. Someone who has never played a game in their life can be treated to the same experience. Okay, conflicting information, bro. You keep saying that players, everyone's going to have their own experience, but now players are going to be treated to the same experience. Make up your mind. Same experience as someone who spent years refining their skills as a gamer. I would know this as I've had family members play through PT. Okay, but I don't know who your family members are, dude. I don't know if your grandpa was playing Doom back in the day. I don't know, right? I don't know how old you are. So, I'm assuming what he's saying is that he's the only person in his family who has ever played a video game. And I know that's not true because, most people on the planet have played Tetris. That's how big Tetris was. You can ask people, hey, you ever played Tetris before? And people will be like, yeah, I've played it before. Or even older people, when they saw Space Invaders or Asteroids or even Pong back in the day in bars, and were like, well, what's this thing? And they give it a shot. So, but maybe they might not have that gamer literacy built up. So anyway, though confusing, the demo is never ever clunky or frustrating to play through. Is that a fucking joke? It's the textbook definition of frustrating to play through. Everybody, and I mean this, everybody, unless they have a guide, is going to walk through that hallway over and over and over, and they're going to keep looping, never achieving nothing. And they're going to get frustrated. Have somebody sit down with PT for the first time. I guarantee you they're going to get frustrated and turn it off. Unless you have this strategy guide or the tips and tricks, you're going to walk around in circles and not achieve anything. I have a feeling there must be a trigger where after you've played for a certain number of hours in a row and you go through the final door, that it just triggers the cutscene. I'm betting that's how the first person solved it. Because there was one person that solved it. I haven't seen the full stream, but I guarantee you they didn't go through all the steps that you have to do. You know what? I'm going to have to go and do that. Because I'm working on this survival horror video. And I think it would be a good idea if I just didn't mention PT at all. So that whiny fanboys can pop off in the comments you didn't mention PT, but it was so revolutionary and influential. Shut the hell up. Shut up. Shut the hell up. But no, I should actually just to have the knowledge, because Mortal Kombat 3 will tell you there is no knowledge that is not power. So you gotta know thine enemy and all that. So anyway, never ever clunky or frustrating to play through. Get out of here with that. This means that the demo was free to reach and inspire a much larger core fan base, such as people who are fans of horror films and books but hadn't played much games, or people who were at the time just starting to get into games as a medium. Well, that's not a reason why you liked PT, I guess, or you like the idea that it's accessible to people who don't play games. Okay, I can understand that, right? I can get behind that idea. Sure. I got nothing else to say about that, but I think it's still disconcerting to me that there's a market for games that essentially aren't games. Interactive movie, I can understand that, if it's marketed as such. Visual novel, I'm cool with that too. I love visual novels. I've played several. I don't know if played is the right word. I've experienced several, enjoyed them, had a great time. Interactive movies, Until Dawn on PS4, it's brilliant. It's an amazing experience. I like interactive movies. I really do. But I think the problem here is that there's a population of what the corporations refer to as the core gamer audience, and they're not interested in gameplay. They don't care if the game plays well, only that it looks good. And it doesn't matter if the story is any good as long as it looks good. And that's why we're in the middle of a graphics war right now. That's why NVIDIA and AMD compete over how many CUDA cores are in their video cards and all that, because people are graphics whores. And I used to be. I used to be a sucker for 3D graphics. That's why I used to spend my last dollar on computer upgrades so I could have that extra frame, or I can turn on 16 times multi-sampled anti-aliasing or whatever it was. I turn off depth of field though. But now I'm starting to appreciate depth of field. If it's done right in a game, I think that's pretty good. Motion blur too. I was like the biggest hater of motion blur, but then I played Zone of the Enders 2 with motion blur turned on, and I was like, oh dude, whoa, this is like a completely different experience, bro. It's crazy. It still pisses me off though that this dude, Lance McDonald, has the audacity to say that taking the demo off the store was an absolutely unprecedented act of malice. Like it's a game that's not in development, and they don't want to create the impression that they're still making it because that could cause their stock price to dip. And they're not trying to do that because that would make their investors look bad. They're a publicly traded corporation, bro. Like, how do you not... Again, dude's never had a job before. He's just not ever had to work a day in his life. His parents probably gave him everything he wanted growing up, so he became an entitled little kid, and he turned that into a career, and good for him. I'm not going to say I'm jealous, but I am a hater, so I'm hating on this dude. Because, yeah, like, as somebody who has absolutely zero industry insight, all you do is stream on Twitch, you're not an authority. I wish I could say all this stuff to his face, but I'm talking to the clouds, or I'm talking to you guys, letting you know how I feel about the situation. But yeah, Lance McD, you're not an authority in this field. I just think that's asinine, right? The historical sheer malice that Konami has shown towards Silent Hills and PT is fucking jaw-dropping. That's what he said. He said it's fucking jaw-dropping. Okay, dude. Oh, man. Oh, this is a good reply. Look, I love PT, but it's really not malice. To their business, it's an advertisement for a product that doesn't and will never exist, featuring the names and likenesses of celebrity. It makes a lot of sense for them to try to scrub it. Like, dude, gotta like that tweet. That dude, smart as hell. I like that tweet. I should follow him too. How many followers? Oh, he's got 114 followers. I'm following him. DJS Cheddar. You just earned a follower for having a real smart tweet. Tweedly-deedly-dee, tweedly-deedly-dee. Just imagine being that entitled that you think that a major company should tank their stock price just to keep you satiated. That's disgusting to me. That's why I've never faulted Konami in what happened. And it's not just because of my hate for Kojiminy. Like, I do my best to approach situations from an objective standpoint. And, like, the whole thing about them monitoring bathroom breaks of their employees and stuff and like, monitoring their emails and stuff. Everybody who complained about the stuff that Konami was doing while Kojanki was getting ready to be fired, and I mean everybody, anybody who complained about that, if you have a phone, if you have a cell phone and your carrier is Verizon or AT&T or SoftBank or T-Mobile or any major mobile carrier, throw your phone away. If you really believe that, then throw your phone away. Because that's what all those dudes do to every employee, not just in times of like stressful times where somebody is getting ready to be fired and they're in the middle of restructuring. I mean, normal everyday business operations, bathroom breaks and emails are heavily monitored and regulated, and you're kept on a clock for every single thing you do. How do I know? Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. So if you're the type of person, and I want you, all you guys, if you ever hear somebody complaining about Konami or like what they were doing while they were in the middle of restructuring, ask them if they have a phone. Like, oh, do you have a cell phone? Who's your carrier? It's AT&T? Oh, it's T-Mobile? It's Verizon? Oh, then you should throw your phone away. If you really cared about how corporations treated employees. Oh, wait, you have an iPhone? Oh, you have an iPhone? Seriously, dude, you have an iPhone? You mean from Apple? The company who built their empire on the backs of Malaysian child labor? Who builds their products under conditions so harsh that employees at the Foxconn assembling manufacturing company in China are driven to commit suicide? Like they jump out of the frickin' windows? That's how bad things are, just so you can have an iPhone? If you really cared about how employees were treated by corporations, then you do what I do. Don't buy from Nintendo. Don't buy from Apple. Pretty much don't buy anything.